Hello everyone, this is Mrs. J. I'm doing a read aloud of Thunder Rolling in the Mountains by Scott Odell and Elizabeth Hall, and we're on chapter 11, page 58. With sick hearts, we packed in the dark to leave. 4 of our best warriors lay dead. Besides Wall-E-Teets and Red Moccasin Tops, we had lost Rainbow and 5 wounds. Only a few families were not mourning a lost relative. The Bluecoats were pinned in rifle pits among the trees and could not see our camp. A dozen of our warriors kept them busy fighting so that we can get away. My father was in charge of our escape. He rounded up the horses and we got ready to go. We pulled down the teepees that had not burned and used the poles to make travois for the badly wounded. With my baby sister on my back, I helped put Fairland, Ollicott's wife, on a travois. She was near death, but Ollicott was still fighting and could not be with her. For those whose wounds were not dangerous, we tied onto ponies. We helped Whitefeather onto her horse. She made a face from pain as I boosted her into the saddle. Early in the fighting, a bullet struck her in the shoulder. It knocked her to the ground and made her dizzy. She grabbed at something to pull herself up. It was the boot of a Bluecoat. He smashed his rifle butt into her face. The blow split her lip and broke one of her front teeth. Her lip was swollen and she was no longer pretty, but she would live. Before we started off, we buried many of our dead. As we wrapped them in soft buffalo robes, we wailed songs of mourning. The sounds pierced the air as our loss pierced our hearts. With each one, we buried some of that person's prized possessions: a flute, a necklace, bracelets of copper wire, an embroidered headband. When I helped bury my beautiful mother, my tears fell hot on her wrappings. With knives, we dug shallow graves in little ravines along the riverbank. There we placed our dead and pulled the earth over them. Chief Joseph led the women, children, old men, and the rest of our warriors away from Big Hole. Whitebird, who was too old to fight, rode with us. The other chiefs stayed to fight. We left many buffalo robes and much food. Our things were scattered on the ground. We traveled toward the low, rolling hills that swung south toward the mountains. As we moved away, the sounds of the battle grew faint. In the gray dawn, a broad path stretched behind us, where our ponies' feet trampled the grass. The travois poles made furrows in the ground. Our warriors would find it easy to follow. The morning mist cleared and the summer sun beat down upon us. Clouds of dust rode around the travois. We stopped often to shade our eyes of our wounded and to wet their parched lips. After a long half-sun, we halted at a little stream shaded by willows. The sun was still in the sky, but our wounded could travel no further. That night Fairland died. My father held her hand as she died, and he grieved with me. We grieved for my mother, too. As the spirit of Ollicott's wife entered the afterworld, we saw my mother die again. My father sighed deeply. "We never make war on women and children," he said, "but the Bluecoats kill our women and children first. That is a shameful way to fight." The war no longer stirred me. Before this, we had beaten the Bluecoats with little trouble. Few of our people had been killed. But now, with many lost, my heart was wrenched out from me. I feared for Swan Necklace, and I feared for my people. But I could not think about my fears. Bending Willow cried for my mother, and for my mother's milk. I fed her soft mush, but she spat it out and cried harder. Then Dear Woman knelt by my side. Her baby had been killed by the Bluecoats. She picked up Bending Willow and held her close, letting her drink the milk that her own baby no longer needed. We slept little that night. There were many wounded to care for. I carried water, changed bandages, and fed camas mush to those who could eat. I comforted those who cried out in pain. In the morning, as we were packing the horses, the warriors rode into camp. Swan Necklace was safe. "Do not fear for me," he said. "Bullets cannot kill me as long as I have my war whistle." When he went into battle, he sounded his war whistle. It was made from the wing bone of a crane, and its piercing cry called Swan Necklace's guardian spirit to protect him. "Red Moccasin Tops lies dead," I answered. "His guardian spirit protected him only from wounds on his body," said Swan Necklace, "and he was shot in the throat." "And Wall-E-Teets, and Rainbow, and all the other brave warriors who lie dead?" "Perhaps Wall-E-Teets was shot before he could pick up his charm of weasel skin and raven feathers," said Swan Necklace. "Rainbow's guardian spirit protected him in battle only after sunrise. Then he could walk among his enemies. He was struck while the sky was dark." I wondered at his words and prayed to the Great Spirit Chief to protect him. We buried Fairland with her elk-hide dress that she wore on feast days and shell necklace from the land of great waters. We wailed songs of grief for her. Before we left our camp, the War Council met once more. Looking Glass was in disgrace. He had failed the people. We have traveled too slowly and have been too careless, said Whitebird. We cannot fight again. If we kill one soldier, 1,000 will take its place. But if we lose one warrior, there is no one to take his place. The council heard his words and chose a new leader. It was Lean Elk, a young warrior with a tight mouth and burning eyes. At noon, he sent us south with his burning gaze.